I'm Dustin, Garis. Thank you, man. That was awesome. I was just like stunned standing over there like, look at this, my twin. This ain't perfect. Fantastic. Thank you. This is Jonathan, everyone. Appreciate it, man. Way to go. I need to learn to dance like that so I don't need a stunt double anymore. Man, that was fantastic. All right. The reason why I started off with a little breakdancing today is because I wanted to create a memorable experience. And that's what we're going to be talking about. That the world's most renowned brands are no longer just innovating on our products or our marketing, but are now innovating on the human experience. And to help me explain what exactly I mean by this, I figured I'd do things a little bit differently and actually share with you more of the backstory to how I came across this idea. See, it's very much a personal story of how, I guess unintentionally, became a researcher at a very young age and have since been on this quest to find perhaps the single most important insight of all. But before I reveal exactly what that is, I'm going to back up to where I think the start of this journey really began, when I was 7 years old. How much time do we have, by the way? We're going until midnight, right? All right, I'll try to stay focused here. So starting in 7 years old, it became quite apparent that I was a pretty strange kid. So whereas most normal kids wanted to grow up and become an astronaut or a fireman or Batman, I wanted to be a businessman. And I don't know where I got this from, but I was serious about this. I mean, even though I went to a public school, starting in second grade, I insisted on wearing a suit and tie to class. And I couldn't carry a backpack either. I had to carry a briefcase. The teachers were concerned. And this nuttiness continued right through to college. And by senior year, I scored a job offer from one of the largest companies in the world. I was ecstatic, just steps away from realizing my life aspiration. But being this odd kid, I continued to go on interviews, this time just for fun. The way I saw it, it was an opportunity for me to be trapped in a room with all these successful business professionals, my heroes. And I was just so cocky at the time. I was able to turn the tables and ask them all the questions about the path ahead. And I ended up completing just over 100 of these reverse interviews. I was a complete researcher nerd without even knowing it at the time. And throughout these interactions, I began to pick up on a fairly disturbing pattern. See, these people that I admired my entire life, they all talked about the common pattern of life passing them by. They'd say things just kind of nonchalantly like, gosh, is it Friday already? Where did the week go? Boy, October sure snuck up on us this year. Next thing you know, you're 40. 10 years just fly by. I remember one woman in particular that I interviewed with. She used that last expression, and I interrupted her, and I asked what really happened to those 10 years. She couldn't think of an answer, and she broke down in tears in the interview. This freaked me out. Like, something is clearly wrong here if this is the norm. This was not the insight I was looking for. And so, come graduation, I did something drastic, totally out of character, and against everyone's advice. I turned down all the job offers. And instead, I embarked on this expedition to find an answer to one of life's oldest questions, which is, where did the time go? So I spent the remainder of my savings on a one-way flight to Asia, and I had no idea at the time that I would be spending the next 2 years traveling 100,000 kilometers to over 30 countries across 5 continents. Now, granted, I approached this in a fairly reckless way, but I realized that if I truly wanted to find an answer to one of life's oldest questions, I couldn't just stay put. I couldn't just do a focus group or online survey. I had to step into people's shoes and experience their life firsthand. And so I put a message out to the world asking people to let me take on their identity. And something bizarre happened. Invitations started coming in by the dozens, by the hundreds, by the thousands. And before I knew it, I was meditating with Chinese Buddhist monks, I was crabbing with Australian fishermen, I was tracking rhinos with South African rangers, rolling croissants with Italian pastry chefs, and hundreds of others. And with each experience, I could tell that I was getting closer to this answer I was looking for, but it was just out of my grasp. Until one unexpected lunch. It all came into focus and forever changed the course of my life. I was in Moscow at the time, just opposite the Red Square at a baked potato shop. And I remember having the darndest time trying to order one of these baked potatoes, probably because I only knew 3 words in Russian. Let's see if I can remember it. Niet, Sputnik, and babushka. Not very helpful. Anyways, it was here that I met a Russian scientist named Pasha. Very cool guy. And I told him about my journey, and he said something that I will never forget. He just kind of leaned back in his chair, and in his thick Russian accent, he said, "Life is not the number of days you live, it's the number of days you remember." Instantly, I knew he nailed it. Pasha captured the key insight of this global expedition, that there exists a universal human aspiration to live a memorable life. And yet, unfortunately, there's also a gap between the number of days that we live and the number of days that we remember. And to prove to me just how vast this gap really is, Pasha asked me a question that I'd now like to ask you. How many days from the past month do you remember? Really, looking back over the last 30 days, how many stand out? What do you think? You guys are in the front. I'm going to call on you. Yeah. Show with your hands. Show. What do you think? We got an overachiever here. There's always one in the crowd. Fantastic. What do you think? I'm going to quiz you on what they are now. Any? Hopefully yesterday counted. Yeah. 7. Fantastic. All right. Good. Well, you guys are way ahead of the crowd because it turns out most people have only 3 memorable days in a month. Wow. Now, for perspective, that comes out to be just over 1 memorable month out of an entire year, or 1 year out of a decade. That kind of makes you wonder, like, what happens to all the other days? It's as though there's some amnesia pandemic stealthily afflicting millions of people, robbing us days of our lives. We should be alarmed by this. But instead, it's so normal. We just brush it off with some cliche like, gosh, where's the time go? All right, granted, maybe no one in this room ever uses that expression. But I had. And I mean, it's happened way too many times. I can't even remember what I ate for lunch the day before. That's freaky when that happens. Where does the time go? So I returned to the US and I vowed to continue this mission of finding an answer to this riddle. And I joined Procter & Gamble, figured, hey, world's largest marketing company, plenty of resources there. And at the same time, I formed an independent innovation think tank, bringing together some of the world's greatest thought leaders from all different expertise. We had technologists, entrepreneurs, marketers, scholars, researchers, neuroscientists, and sure enough, there's now scientific evidence for what the problem is, as well as the solution that companies like P&G are now using to transform their business and their approach to market research. So why do you think it's so easy for one day to blur into the next? I used to just chalk it up to old age, right? Well, I was wrong. Turns out an aging physiology has almost nothing to do with it. The real problem is that over time, we develop a more ingrained routine with fewer novel experiences. Think about it. We wake up at the same time, eat the same breakfast, drive the same commute, work in the same office building, talk to the same people, go to the same types of restaurants, go home, watch the same type of TV, and jog around the same block. And do it all again the next day. This equates to most people doing roughly 90% the same thing from one day to the next. Oh, and by the way, 50% of that is considered completely mindless, what's called a cognitive autopilot. And we're all guilty of this, to some degree. In fact, would you like to do a little experiment right now to test this out? Yeah. Anyone? All right, well, come on, you're part of it. All right, I'm going to ask everyone, please stand up. Right where you are, in your seats. You could stretch if you like, but this has nothing to do with it. All right, now, remain standing if you've had generally the same hairstyle for the past year. Good, that's most of us, okay. Now, remain standing if you've had generally the same hairstyle for the past 5 years. Good, most of us still. Remain standing if you've had generally the same hairstyle for the past 10 years. 15 years. 20 years? We still have folks, wow, I'm not going to go any further. You right there, I've got something for you. We're going to break your 20-year hairstyle rut. Come on, let's do this. I'm good with this thing. Are you game? Come on.
You got a number 2?
Number 2, I don't have, all right. A gift certificate to the salon, Ulta Salon, for a proper hair makeover. Maybe a color or something, all right? There you go. Send a before and after picture. After the show, I'm going to buzz you, though. Really, I'm good with this guy here. All right. Yeah, it's easy to laugh at this, but the ramifications of this cognitive autopilot are more severe than just an outdated hairdo. No offense, by the way. You all look terrific. I can't see you, but I'm sure you look great. You see, this routine-based lifestyle is actually linked to tragic levels of global unhappiness, lack of innovation. And according to a 25-year study at the University of London, you are 40% more likely to die early. Gives new meaning to the phrase bored to death. All right, so how do we solve this? Change our experiences. Intentionally innovate on our daily life routine. Whether it's as simple as parting your hair on the right side instead of the left side, or going to a restaurant. Maybe it's ordering a surprise instead of the usual, or taking the scenic route home instead of the normal commute. Maybe volunteering at the soup kitchen instead of another happy hour. Wearing fun socks instead of business socks. Starting off a talk with a breakdancer. You know, these are the experiences that stretch us, that stimulate our senses, that make a meaningful impact. All of which disengages that cognitive autopilot. And using EEGs and fMRI brain scans, we could see that these are the experiences that activate the hippocampus and frontal cortex, releasing dopamine, forging neurotransmitter connections and new synapse formations. In other words, these are the experiences we remember. And with each memorable experience, there's a value gained, right? An added richness to life that we now refer to as life profit. This was that big idea, like that light bulb moment that totally flipped our thinking around about brand innovation and really life overall. So whereas financial profit relates to a monetary value we gain, life profit measures the incremental value of that memorable experience. For example, there's some intrinsic value with doing an ordinary activity, let's say watching TV after work. Now, what you could alternatively do in that same situation is perhaps go outside and teach your kid how to fly a kite. And it's that incremental richness that is life profit. And this idea of enriching real-life experiences had become a new measure of success for leadership at P&G and other brands. This was essentially this insight now leading our strategy. And the more we researched this, the more we realized that we had uncovered evidence of an underground social movement, an uprising against the ordinary, a revolt against routine, just people doing epic and everyday acts to save the day from being lost. And this is now leading trends across business, education, lifestyle, employment. This is huge. And yet, the idea behind this movement isn't novel. You see, the LifeProfit approach to breaking the mold of routine has actually been the common trait of history's great innovators and change agents. Whether it's Rosa Parks choosing to sit in one seat of the bus instead of another, or Richard Branson choosing to wear a flight suit instead of a dress suit. These iconic figures, they simply lived their life according to a different measure of success, a different focus than the rest of us. I mean, think about where our focus is, just on a personal level right now. We've got our bank statements, our credit reports, our financial advisors, all helping us know our exact financial position and how do we optimize it. But how much life profit have we gained? Now, on our business, we're tracking sales, likes, tweets, clicks, impressions, market share, copy scores, but wait a second. How much life profit have we generated the past quarter for our consumers, our employees, the community? But wait, now I'm all confused. I mean, isn't that supposed to be like our whole brand purpose? To enrich the quality of people's life experience? Well, perhaps it should be more of our focus, since now over 80% of millennials prefer experiences over stuff. Wow, what does this mean for companies that sell stuff? Yeah, it means welcome to the experience economy, where people no longer care whether they buy the blue energy drink or the red energy drink, but instead, whichever one gives them wings. And there's now a growing movement among brands that get this and are using it to win in market. One of my favorite personal examples actually comes from Zappos. See, I used to think of Zappos as a stuff company. They sell shoes. One afternoon, I called up the company with a question I had on a pair of running shoes I saw on their website. And rather than just try to sell me on the pair of shoes, the customer service rep signed me up to go on a mud run that she found in my town. She converted this otherwise ordinary weekend into an experience I will never forget. I could still taste the mud in between my teeth. Zappos helped me live a memorable life, and that is infinitely more valuable than any television commercial or line extension or social media post I ever could have clicked on. What a huge opportunity for brands to be a hero, to literally help people save days of their lives from being forgotten, lost forever. And it's this focus, this innovating on the human experience that generates a wealth of life profit. What I'll share with you now are some lessons I learned from brands that have already adopted this powerful insight and have used it to transform their business. And the key point to keep in mind here is the role that research played throughout. To now lead the overall organizational strategy, to lead the brand vision, to command the boardroom. For starters, I have a video here from Expedia, which, by the way, was one of the early members of the innovation think tank I mentioned. And it's a really great example of how they generated life profit for one ordinary person by rescuing him from an otherwise ordinary day.
If you were asked to drop everything right now and go anywhere in the world, where'd you go?
Excuse me, sir. Could I ask you a quick question? If you could go anywhere in the world, where would you go?
Maldives.
Greece.
Greece? Okay, cool. I'd like to show you that the new Expedia app is the easiest way to go anywhere. What if I could book you on a flight tonight on us? Right. But you gotta go right now.
Bora Bora. I want to go to Bora Bora.
Bora Bora, of course. We're gonna put you on that flight tonight.
I can't do that. I can't.
Always like to go to China.
Nice. What if I told you Expedia will pay for that trip to China, but you have to drop everything and go right now?
And then just go?
You're taking off.
This is for real, right? This is for real?
You're leaving in 3 hours. You gotta hurry. You gotta go.
Seriously, what do I take to China? Sandals? What are you packing?
2 hours, passport, phone, wallet, toothbrush, toothpaste.
I'm stuck in traffic and I'm headed to the airport right now. It's absolutely crazy. Can you cover for me from like tomorrow onward through the rest of the week? I went to the Great Wall. I went to the frickin' Great Wall of China. I went to one of the 7 wonders of the world. Like, it's one of the most majestic places that you could hope to go. Tiananmen Square, the Forbidden Palace, like places that are on the back of postcards. I could have been home watching TV. And what a shame that would have been.
Now, who here would be willing to drop everything and accept a ticket to China, compliments of Expedia? I see a hand right over here, but I was just testing. You guys aren't going anywhere. You got an awesome conference ahead of you. But I do have something for you. This is even better than a trip to China. It's a gift certificate to P.F. Chang's. No jet lag at all. There you go. Enjoy. Oh, yes. Thank you. All right, this was a pretty extreme example. But I love how Expedia really modeled their entire strategy around generating life profit. They didn't just want to sell stuff. They wanted to be a hero, a knight in shining armor, rescuing people from monotony. Because they know that most of their customers will not have a memorable day today. So they made it their mission to understand why that is and how they could change that. For example, their research team identified that their customers travel to the same destination they've already been to 85% of the time. So they can now use that insight to redesign the booking experience in a way that exposes them to new destinations. It's a great reminder for all of us. I mean, do you know why it is that your customers won't have a memorable day today? And what are all the points throughout the day that you could help change that in a brand relevant way? The challenge for Expedia will be how to make that impact at scale. Right? They can't just send everyone to China. And this is a challenge that Coca-Cola had also faced. How to generate life profit at scale, not just another one-off stunt, but how to enrich the life experience of millions of people around the world. That's a pretty tall order. And they cracked the code. And I remember exactly when it was that they made this breakthrough. I was down in Atlanta meeting with Coke and their agency, also part of the innovation think tank I mentioned. And what really struck me as breakthrough is the somewhat backwards approach to the creative process. You see, they had a very simple brief that started with the end in mind. Just 150 words, it articulated the desired human experience of more shared moments of happiness. Then let the agency work backwards from there. And this is what gave birth to the Share a Coke campaign. And this video looks at the very first market that it launched in.
Last September, in the dead of night, the world's most iconic brand did the unthinkable. 150 of Australia's most popular names appeared on millions of bottles of Coke. We decided to get personal and invited Australians all over to share a Coke.
Share a Coke with Kate, or Mel, or Dave, or Jay.
Whichever way you turned, it was you and your friends up in lights. The media instantly took notice. The internet blew up. Australia had fallen in love.
Coca-Cola.
Sharing a Coke.
And share a Coke with...
Thousands of requests poured in for more names, but we were ready. With kiosks where people could get any name printed on a Coke can, the queues went for hours. But the requests kept flooding in. We invited everyone to share a Coke, and share they did. Australians were once more connecting over the world's most iconic brand. With one simple tweak to a label, Coke once again became part of popular culture.
That's pretty brilliant. That insight inspiring millions of people to now share a moment of happiness. So what was the product, though, they were actually selling? We know this wasn't the soda, right? And we know this because people waited hours in line to buy something that had always been on shelves. The only difference is that now they had an opportunity to buy an experience. This generated a wealth of life profit, which, by the way, translated into tremendous financial profit, reversing a decade of declining sales, expanding this to 70 countries, and leading to literally billions of units sold. Fantastic. So at P&G, we also began to adopt this life profit mindset. See, we started to focus less of our attention on just the product itself or maybe digital technology, and instead focus on innovating the human experience, getting closer to consumers in real life, not virtual life. And this is how that translated into an internal manifesto for us. This is not a commercial.
Innovation isn't always driven by a desire to make things go faster, fly higher, or process quicker. Sometimes the motivation to innovate is something much closer to home. Something more human. Because we don't live on rocket ships or inside computer chips. At Procter & Gamble, we believe there is extraordinary potential in every one of these moments to transform someone's life. We will keep innovating, and our quest to make everyday actions have extraordinary impact will never stop. Procter & Gamble.
That sounds pretty good, nice accent, but what does it actually mean in practice? Well, at this point, I had moved into leading global innovation at P&G's FutureWorks division, which was known as kind of the underground innovation lab for the company. It was very secretive. And my team there decided to take a very bold stance and actually change our entire business model around this insight. We started with the Mr. Clean brand, and we created the Mr. Clean car wash. Just physical locations where people go and get their car cleaned. Now, this was a fairly uncomfortable move for a 175-year-old, $80 billion products company. But it started to work. And I remember exactly when it hit me. I was very thankful for my job security at that point. It was just after we launched our first dozen or so locations, and I was just doing some customer interviews, chatting it up with folks as they came in through the car wash, and I met this one guy who mentioned that he comes in every single Sunday. And from a part of town that's 15 miles away, past 8 competitive car washes. Well, that's interesting. We've never seen loyalty like this anywhere else on our business. What's going on here? I know. Must be our great advertising, right? No. Turns out he never saw an ad, and furthermore, he doesn't even care much about keeping his car clean. The real reason that he comes every single Sunday is because we had installed these water guns for the kids to shoot the cars as they go through the tunnel, and his son absolutely loved this. So for him, getting his car washed by Mr. Clean was an opportunity for him to create a memorable experience for his son to look back on when he was old. Priceless. And from a business standpoint, that brand memory is neurologically imprinted into their brain for multi-generational loyalty. All because we figured out what people really wanted in life, not just when it came to cleaning, and then structured our business model around that. Now, granted, getting to this point did not come easy. You see, P&G did not really accept this form of disruption on any broad scale, and it's largely due to the fact that we neglected to first apply that insight to ourselves inside the company. And that makes all the difference. It's kind of like that theory, you know, about how dogs resemble their owners, which is true, by the way. Well, it's also true that brands are a reflection of the people behind them. And we've seen this by benchmarking against some of the most renowned companies around the world, like Google and Tesla and Virgin and Southwest. And what's overwhelmingly evident is that by generating life profit internally for employees is one of the greatest factors in driving an innovative organization. And this takes a great deal of effort, because otherwise we will fall back into our normal routine, right? We will go back to ordering the usual at the restaurant, or driving the same commute, or wearing the same color socks. We're essentially programming our brains to mentally color within the lines. And that's why disrupting our daily life experiences is actually prerequisite to disruptive thinking on your business. In other words, if you want to be innovative, you must live innovation. This is such a basic yet valuable mind flip. So valuable, in fact, that some companies now offer paid vacations. I'm not talking about like paid time off, but companies like Airbnb actually pay for the cost of employees' vacations up to $7,500 a year. Yeah, they'll pay you to get out of the office, go on some adventure, bike the Rockies, or go sailing in Italy. If you take nothing else away from the past hour, it's to get your company to offer paid vacation. Good luck with that. I didn't manage to swing that at P&G, but we did start to encourage some other lifestyle changes, really as a way to exercise our innovation muscles throughout the day. For example, we enacted the Agile Desk policy, which meant that you had to essentially sit next to a different person from one day to the next. And no more meeting in the same old office room. You had to find someplace creative, like meeting in the elevator. That was my favorite. We also changed our approach to research. No more relying on just outsourcing alone. We had to be more involved. We had to participate, get our hands dirty, something that we started to call the fourth dimension research model. I'll take you through a little scenario as to what that might look like in the case of, let's say, Pampers doing research on pregnancy. Now, on the more passive side of the spectrum, we might observe some pregnant women and try to interpret their behaviors. Then, progressively more interactive, we might hold a focus group, ask them some questions directly. Yet even furthermore immersive, we might try to experience what that pregnancy is like with a pregnancy empathy suit. We've all got one of these at home, right? The fourth dimension, though, takes it even further, to really step into her shoes. And this is reserved for the more brave researchers among us. Let's go check out what this guy is.
All Mom Kim wanted was for her husband Penn to feel what it's like going through the labor pains of giving birth.
I just think to really embrace fatherhood, you should experience what it took to become a mother.
The uterus contracts. So instead of the uterus contracting,
They hooked him up, and even the early labor pains weren't pleasant.
You're doing a great job, honey. You're doing a great job.
Okay, I'm starting for 1 minute. It needs to keep going for a minute.
Someone's like trying to push something.
You can do it, baby.
Through my
10 more
stomach and out of my butt.
10 more seconds, and then we'll take a break. Okay, 10 more seconds.
Yeah.
You got it. Breathe, breathe, breathe. Don't push. Okay.
there you go.
Okay, so we'll take a little break.
Okay.
Just wait till they took it up a notch to active labor pain. women who have experienced giving birth must enjoy watching a man feel what it's like.
Thank you very, very much for doing this. I feel very bad. I'm very sorry.
Okay.
I'm very sorry.
This was all your idea.
It was my idea, and I'm very
You
sorry.
put this baby inside of me, and I blame you for this.
We're not sure if men everywhere would want to see what it's like to have the pain of giving birth, but we applaud Penn for volunteering to try. Be sure to tune in to Inside Edition.
That's pretty good. Who wants to try that now? Yeah, that's over my head. I don't know. But some other 4D research that we did involved everything from testing out sleep centers, riding a Segway, competing in a rodeo, testing out the spa, that was pretty nice. Getting laser hair removal, that was painful. Eating dog food, not so bad. Smelling armpits, yeah, nasty. Bucket bathing, working at a dry cleaners, going blind for a day. Now that was an eye-opening experience. That is something that I suggest everyone at some point experience. And in fact, we used some pretty funky, cool algorithm to determine who in this room is the bravest of us. And we went ahead and we put some blindfolds underneath your chair. So go ahead right now, check, see if you've got a blindfold underneath your chair. And I invite you, if you do have the blindfold, to go ahead and use this opportunity to give that a try, whether it's during the remainder of this talk or during the reception or afterwards while you're brushing your teeth, and perhaps your neighbor could help you with that. And that is a fantastic experience to give you a new perspective on the world around you. And so what really is the impact of this living innovation? Well, for one, it makes for a heck of a memorable life. And secondly, we become more creative, where we're able to catch all the insights we otherwise would have missed. And this next video is a great demonstration of what it looks like when an entire organization is living innovation. And after we watch this, I'm going to ask you, how does it differ? What's missing from a traditional commercial? So be prepared to answer.
Hi, Erin.
Hi.
Okay, so I'm gonna just give you some actions to do. I just do the first thing that comes to mind. Show me what it looks like to run like a girl.
My hair.
Show me what it looks like to fight like a girl. Now throw like a girl.
Aww. My name is Dakota, and I'm 10 years old.
Show me what it looks like to run like a girl. Throw like a girl. Fight like a girl. What does it mean to you when I say run like a girl?
It means run fast as you can.
So do you think you just insulted your sister?
No. I mean, yeah, insulted girls, but not my sister.
Is like a girl a good thing?
Actually, don't know if it's a bad thing or a good thing. It sounds like a bad thing. It sounds like you're trying to humiliate someone.
So when they're in that vulnerable time between 10 and 12, how do you think it affects them when somebody uses like a girl as an insult?
I think it definitely drops their self-confidence and really puts them down, because during that time, they're already trying to figure themselves out. And when somebody says, you hit like a girl, it's like, well, what does that mean? Because they think they're a strong person. It's kind of like telling them that they're weak and they're not as good as them.
And what advice do you have to young girls who are told they run like a girl, kick like a girl, hit like a girl, swing like a girl?
Keep doing it, because it's working. If somebody else says that running like a girl or kicking like a girl or shooting like a girl is something that you shouldn't be doing, that's their problem. Because if you're still scoring and you're still getting to the ball in time and you're still being first, you're doing it right. Doesn't matter what they say. I mean, Yes, I kick like a girl, and I swim like a girl, and I walk like a girl, and I wake up in the morning like a girl because I am a girl. And that's not something that I should be ashamed of. So I'm gonna do it anyway. That's what they should do.
If I asked you to run like a girl now, would you do it differently?
I would run like myself.
Would you like a chance to redo it?
Yeah.
Why can't run like a girl also mean win the race?
Yeah, all right. First off, great spot, right? That was pretty good. Now, what was missing from a traditional commercial? No product. What were they thinking? And the results were fantastic. I mean, besides for this virally spreading around the world with millions of views, the fact that it inspired a generation of girls to be proud to live like a girl. This is how research can not only lead an organization, but lead a cultural revolution. This is powerful. And stepping back, this is the big picture, that we have an opportunity here to be a hero, to start with our end purpose in mind, to really look at getting offline and having a real life impact with people, and to live innovation throughout the day, not just doing a focus group brainstorm. Because when we innovate on the human experience, that is how we generate true life profit. That's how we help people go from 3 memorable days a month to 6 to 12. And for this, we are rewarded with breakthrough results. And if you need any help in getting started, by all means, feel free to reach out to me. I'll be at the reception. Here's my email address. Happy to share any additional information with you, whether it's about the Innovation Think Tank or even how to get started with paid vacations. There is actually a great vendor called Soul Buffalo, happy to make the introduction with you. And together, we can make today memorable for our customers, for our employees, and for ourselves. So that way, the next time that age-old question creeps into our mind, where did the time go? We'll have a great answer. Thank you.